Justifiably so, I think. Shit. All right. So we got one more story, and it's about poisoned water. Water. As Reef loves to make fun of me for all the time. Because I'm from Jersey and I can't help myself.
The thing he doesn't drink. That stuff.
Enough of, but yes, I do drink some. We are made out of water. But Erin Brockovich, we agree with on some stuff, but she has been a tremendous advocate for the people of East Palestine, the people of Jackson, Mississippi. And who was it? Oh my God, I watched an Instagram that said basically if Erin Brockovich shows up at your town, move.
Yeah.
Because shit's fucked up.
I need to get, they're called boobs Ed on the soundboard.
Yeah. So as more chemicals spill, more questions arise. And I think that that's appropriate, fitting. But Ohio, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, how many spills does it take Minnesota to wonder what's going on?
Lollipop?
It's happening all the time, and more people are starting to pay attention. We've already had 50 incidents this year across the United States, according to the Coalition to Prevent Chemical Disasters, who estimate that a chemical fire, explosion, or toxic release occurs every 2 days in the United States. Click on their website, and again, this is over at the BrockovichReport.com, to see a map and list of all the chemical facility incidents. About 124 million Americans, or about a third, live within 3 miles of more than 12,000 high-risk chemical facilities, and that's a lot of risk. Spills out. A lot of damage. You bet. Spills outside of Philadelphia, Minnesota are just the latest to make headlines and spur thousands of residents to rush to the store to buy bottled water. Toxic chemical leaks, fires, and explosions are shockingly common in the U.S., according to a 2022 report from Coming Clean, a national collaborative of environmental health and environmental justice organizations and experts working to reform the chemical and energy industries, and the Environmental Justice Health Alliance for Chemical Policy Reform, which is a national network of
going clear.
Yes, not quite. But these are like actual advocates and not hucksters.
Yeah,
the National Advocate of Grassroots Environmental and Economic Justice Organizations. Now, the right wing would call them hucksters too, I'm sure. But they're actually just trying to get resources for their communities, which are being destroyed for capitalism. But let's talk more about these recent spills. Near Philly, the company that owns the chemical plant Trinseo, a buyout and rebrand of Dow Chemical, attributed the chemical leak of more than 8,000 gallons of a latex finishing solution to equipment failure at its Bristol, Pennsylvania location. Officials said that the spill contained methyl metacrylate, butyl acrylate, and ethyl acrylate, which are commonly used to produce glass-like acrylics, but are also deemed hazardous to humans. Butyl acrylate was also among the hazardous materials detected at the recent East Palestine, Ohio train derailment site. Shout out to the folks at East Palestine.
Yep.
The toxins entered a storm drain. United for East Palestine, yes. The toxins entered a storm drain where they spilled out to Otter Creek and then to the Delaware River, according to the company.
I wonder if they're going to talk about the barges that got pushed up against the dam over in Louisville, on the Ohio River, that had I want to say 1,400 tons of methanol. Just in case people were wondering if the stuff I was talking about was going to happen, it does. That's my pop's industry. So 1,400 tons is a lot.
I dropped a Twitter handle in chat, everyone, at Soupjax, SOOPJAX, has been doing tremendous sharing on all of the things that have been contaminating East Palestine and the water. And I've seen them apoplectic that nobody seems to be listening and paying attention. I'm listening, I'm paying attention, and I'd like other people too. Also, you are sharing amazing stuff, and it really is important. At SOOPJAX, I'll try to bring up a tweet or two of theirs, and you can see what I'm talking about. But just go check them out, and I'm sure you'll see what I mean. But Delaware River, of course, that's near my home. I'm in New Jersey. It runs 330 miles long. It flows through 5 states, including Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Maryland, and Delaware. And it provides drinking water to more than 13 million people. Thankfully, not me. But a 2021 EPA report found that equipment failures are the leading cause of spills, and the private industry was most often the responsible party. No surprise there. That report is the most comprehensive assessment to show that the number, location, and characteristics of chemical and toxic spills into U.S. drinking water sources using federal data from 2010 to 2019, it found almost 4,000 incidents of toxic spills into groundwater, rivers, or lakes used for drinking water. Oh my God. Yeah, we're being poisoned every day. Accidental releases of harmful chemicals into drinking water sources are a major problem for public water systems and the communities they serve, and despite the frequency at which they occur, communication continues to be problematic during these accidents. That's the understatement of the year. Initially, local officials instructed residents to drink bottled water out of an abundance of caution, then later said testing found water from the spill had not made its way into the city's system. So, yeah, like, what are you supposed to do? So, tap water will remain safe to drink through at least through 3:30 tomorrow. What's going to happen at 3:30 tomorrow?
It's going to be fun. Yeah, like I hope their watch is good.
At 3:27, can I fill up a pitcher of water? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, we forgot to roll it back. It was spring.
We're fine.
You know.
I appreciated everyone acting with caution, but I also think testing can be tricky. And here's Erin hedging a little bit, but I understand why. The Philadelphia Water Department faced a class action lawsuit in 2016 due to questionable lead and copper testing practices. So she's concerned anytime officials decide that the water is safe so quickly, science takes time. I've watched for years as we changed what's safe, as more data can reveal the true impact toxic chemicals have on our bodies. And of course, we need to continue to invest in this kind of science. I think it's better to be honest and say, we don't know the true impact at this time. They can't ever do that. They never do that. Over the years, Erin says she's been criticized about whether or not she has the data to prove a chemical is unsafe. But the same question can go to these chemical corporations. Do they have the data to prove their products are safe?
Right. No.
People forget that Congress passed the Toxic Substances Control Act in 1976. Before that, we had no records of what chemicals were manufactured, used, or released into the environment, and no means of regulating them. By the way, thank you, Richard Nixon, for that. That was Nixon and the Ford administration, and then the Carter administration in 1976. Once he took over in 77.
Was that over lead gas, or was that over?
No, that was over the
aerosol.
The ozone stuff, maybe, but that was even in the 80s. I think it's more about the creation and of the EPA. You know, that was only
like the refrigerant. What was that?
That was a McGovern thing. That was during the early to mid 70s that they created this legislation.
Agnew.
Pushed it through, and then it actually passed in 1976. This law gave the EPA authority to help regulate new and existing chemicals with reporting, record keeping, and testing requirements, and restrictions on chemical substances used commercially. It also gave the EPA, which had just newly been created, authority to maintain a master list of chemicals and keep inventory of them. Really important. But when the law was signed, more than 60,000 chemicals already in use became grandfathered into the system with no toxicity testing. None. So all the plastics and everything. Yep. We barely know what chemicals are safe when they're in a plant, when they're in the plant, when they spill out into the environment, and it's even more of a guessing game. And so,
meanwhile,
in Minnesota, right, more than 400,000
gallons. That's 400 the amount of contaminated water.
400,000 gallons. All right, is the amount of contaminated water leaked from a pipe at a nuclear power plant near Minneapolis back in November, and they're just telling us about it now. The plant, run by Xcel Energy, is located in Monticello, a city of about 14,000, located next to no tiny body of water called the Mississippi River. Right.
There's also a big lake right above that. Keep in mind.
Yeah, Federal Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Well, they're the land of 10,000 lakes, so there's a lake everywhere.
Yes.
So the Federal Nuclear Regulatory Commission,
but also the biggest,
posted a notice publicly at the time, right? But the company and state agencies did not notify the general public until March. So now we're talking about it. Officials attributed the leak to a water pipe running between two buildings at the plant site. And they say that Excel took swift action to contain the leak, which poses no health and safety risks to the local community or the environment, the company announced. But ongoing monitoring has confirmed that the leak is fully contained on site and has not been detected beyond the facility or in any local drinking water, which is good. But just this week, a Minnesota utility shut down the nuclear power plant after discovering water was leaking from a pipe for the second time. The chemical of concern in the water is tritium, which is a radioactive isotope of hydrogen that's a common byproduct of nuclear plant operations. It emits a weak form of beta radiation, and I believe it has a half-life of like 10,000 years. It never breaks down.
Safe.
It will be in you forever. Edwin Lyman, who is director of nuclear...
Tritium, you say, yes?
Tritium is what I said.
That,
yeah.
Like, in those?
Okay, if you say so. Edwin Lyman, director of nuclear power safety.
Vision?
Director of nuclear power safety with the Union of Concerned Scientists, told ABC News the fact that there was a second tritium leak shines a light on the problem of maintaining aging pipelines underground at older nuclear plants. Well, there aren't any newer nuclear plants. A spokesman for the NRC told the local news station that the public's concern was very understandable. Well, thank you so much.
Yep.
And emphasized that the public in Minnesota, the community near the plant, was not and is not in danger. Sure. So my question is, where did the tritium go? And if it's safe, why are we cleaning it up? And are people drinking it? These are simple questions that deserve answers, and nobody wants to answer them because it means they're next. We let private companies...
Real glowy. Like, it was glowy.
Well, scaly. I mean, we don't know. No, there'll be lots of rashes and sore throats and sickness.
Tritium.
Literally glowy.
It straight up glows. Yeah, I'm like, it's the glowy stuff. What? That's like, literally, it's in my, like, gun sights because it glows. You can do little bracelets with them, and I think that's what... Is it classically, it's the thing that, that was radon. Sorry,
yes.
My bad. But close enough. Like, literally, tritium paint is used in like watches now.
All right. So we let private companies call the shots, do their own investigation, tell us everything's safe, and then years later we wonder why everyone gets sick down the road. It's a story that happens all too often. Nationally, the costs and consequences of these often preventable happenings are staggering. Back to that 2022 report, the researchers found that in just one decade, incidents at facilities that use or store hazardous chemicals caused more than $2 billion in property damage, as well as the injury, death, shelter-in-place, or evacuation of 500,000 people. It's the job of the EPA, under the risk management rule, to prevent chemical disasters. What the hell have they been doing? The rule requires...
Paid off by businesses?
No, they got defunded by Trump and defanged and... to a point, but really it's that they've been understaffed intentionally for years, all right, and not given the funding. Yes, for corporate greed. The rule requires facilities that use or store certain toxic or flammable substances above threshold amounts to develop a risk management plan and submit a summary plan to the EPA. But these plans must assess a worst case chemical release scenario, develop an emergency response plan, and consider safety and prevention measures. And what I want to know is, where are the plans? Release the safety considerations and prevention measures. We all want to read them and learn more and pick them apart and show why they're completely inadequate.
Dude, I've seen them. I literally, my father has to, they're videos. They literally have to watch a series of videos on it. And it's stuff like, you can't go in this room without taking this gadget, putting it on a stick, putting it in the hold. There's a individual called a tankerman that has to learn all that crap too. They'll get a card, right? And they also have to learn stuff like, I don't know, I have to make sure that when I pull this incredibly flammable toxic liquid out of the tank I'm pulling it from, what kind of vacuum it can produce, and can you decompress the entire barge / tank, and then get, I don't know, anhydrous ammonia, like filling the air, or like, they deal with explosive nitrates and all sorts of fun stuff. Methanol.
Yep. And
But yeah, it's
like it says here, so many other great laws on the books. Okay, Erin, I think she's joking. The RMP rule has failed to prevent frequent fires, explosions, and harmful chemical releases from these facilities, and it also exempts many highly hazardous chemicals and facilities from regulation altogether. Lori Spencer said, call them the Environmental Polluters Protection Agency, and that's probably where they are today. The EPA has been revising the rule, and those revisions are sorely needed. There is no plan. There is no preparedness. And that's why folks are rushing out to buy water. It's why they email me and ask for help. We need better communication and transparency. It's not enough to drink one glass of water or show one test and say, this is fine. Yeah. Governor Mike DeWine, are you listening?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got some good merch, but I did have two other articles. I want to give a shout out this week to Julia Conley. Julia Conley over at Common Dreams has been doing really the entire time since East Palestine disaster started. She's been outstanding. And there were two articles late this week that I did not have a chance to crop up, but I did want to go over them real quick. So let me go here and turn off the slideshow and go back to full screen. Here we go. So Julia's article is CDC officers become sick while assessing contamination in East Palestine. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Even the people, and listen to this, the reports add confirmation that the symptoms reported by East Palestine residents are real and are associated with environmental exposures from the derailment and chemical fire, said one scientist. Yeah. Okay, reports that several investigators with the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention became ill earlier this month when they visited East Palestine, offered the latest evidence that the air and water in the town is less safe than the state officials and rail company Norfolk Southern have claimed following the company's train derailment in early February. The CNN reported 7 physicians and officers from the CDC's Epidemic Intelligence Service traveled to East Palestine in early March, a month after a train carrying toxic chemicals, including vinyl chloride, derailed there. And then they burned it. The team reported developing symptoms including headaches, sore throats, coughing, and nausea while they were conducting their door-to-door assessment of public health risks. That's just while they were there.
Yeah.
Symptoms were similar to those reported by many East Palestine residents at the crash and are consistent with the physical effects of exposure to vinyl chloride when it's burned, as it was by officials who conducted a controlled release. And there's no such thing as a controlled release. That's bullshit. They just burned it following the derailment to avoid an explosion and just to avoid a bigger explosion. There was a huge explosion. As we heard from Mary, who we read her article that she wrote, the local resident, last week. Despite reports from people in the area who were briefly evacuated and then told just days after the accident that it was safe to return, state officials and Norfolk Southern representatives have insisted that no dangerous levels of contamination have been detected in air or water. Okay. Well, we must stop playing Russian roulette with our health and the environment, said Erin Brockovich. And there you go. That does not look healthy. All right.
Nope.
Report from CDC experts adds confirmation, as she said, that the symptoms reported are real, like we said. Norfolk Southern has removed roughly 9 million gallons of contaminated wastewater from the site of the derailment so far. Chemicals spilled into local creeks and rivers after the derailment and eventually flowed into the Ohio River. Like you talked about, it's stopping barges. It's making its way to Ontario. It's making its way to Maine. And here they're talking to residents. They're all scientists. They're sitting up here telling us nothing's wrong. I want you to tell me why everybody in my community is getting sick. She's right. Here, you've got Andrew Welton. At least they quote Andrew Welton, Purdue University professor, who the United for East Palestine people shouted out as doing tremendous work at his own expense, showing up in East Palestine repeatedly. He's conducted these independent studies. He said on social media this week that he submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to CDC asking for documents related to the investigators' illnesses. All right. Right to Rochelle Walensky. So that was one Julia Conley article. The other one was on Friday. What happened? Biden DOJ sues Norfolk Southern for unlawfully polluting the nation's waterways. About time somebody does something. Now, This is performative theater. I'm telling you right now, this is performative theater. If anything, it'll be a slap on the wrist. Okay, it's going to give the senators a chance to grandstand and call the Allen, whatever his name, in front of Congress again and embarrass him and maybe give them a small fine. But it's not changing anything, unfortunately. All right, but they say that they will
force them to, like in Libby, give the residents Medicare
for all. Libby, Montana.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody should have Medicare for all, but that's quote one DOJ official.
I'm saying you like if you're gonna slap them on the wrist.
I will bet that this is not Merrick Garland or what's his? Yeah, that's Merrick Garland. That's the guy who's the Attorney General. We will tirelessly pursue justice for the people living in and near East Palestine who, like all Americans, deserve clean air, clean water, and a safe community for their children. Yeah, except that Merrick Garland never met a corporation he didn't love.
If Garland Nixon was the Attorney General, but
yes, I agree. If it were Garland Nixon, it'd be a different story. But the Biden administration on Friday took its latest step to hold Norfolk Southern accountable. Of course, they won't hold themselves accountable. No one from the administration like Biden or anyone is really doing anything about it. Mayo Pete gave it that one day casual whatever, but we know that he's not really doing much at this point.
Mayonnaise an instrument?
Mayonnaise, yep. But DOJ sued the company under the Clean Air Act, accusing it of unlawfully polluting the nation's waterways and calling on them to ensure it pays the full cost of environmental cleanup, which we know they won't. They'll leave us holding the bag. When Norfolk Southern train derailed last month, again, you've got Merrick Garland saying it, but that's a prepared statement. With this complaint, the Justice Department and the Environmental Protection Agency are acting to pursue justice. Yeah, he's not really behind this, but he's got to do it. Lawsuit comes almost 2 months. What took them so long? They should have had this lawsuit out a day after they started poisoning the ground. Whatever it takes to make them whole. Right? Officials began, again, the controlled release. There's the controlled release bullshit again of vinyl chloride to prevent an explosion. Process that sent chemicals including hydrogen chloride, phosgene into the environment. Those chemicals have been known to cause symptoms including headaches, vomiting, rashes. Earlier this month, data showed local levels of dioxin were hundreds of times higher than the threshold for cancer risk. They've got to get these people health. Again, they're going to offer them $9,000 or $10,000 for their house. That's what they're
like literally.
Like literally. I have it here on pretty good authority. I clipped a Facebook post. Where is it? And I sent it actually to somebody who I know. I guess I deleted it already. But I sent them, it was basically people asking the residents in the Facebook group, hey, has anybody called you yet? How much are they offering? And somebody was like, yep, basically if they offer me 10 grand, I'm taking it.
Jesus Christ.
But we're also seeing a problem that a lot of the cities that they're trying to bring this dug up dirt, this contaminated toxic dirt to, they don't want to accept it, and even in their processing plants. You know, Andrew over at Action for Assange, he started making a big stink about his community processing anything that might have come from East Palestine.
Bowler hat provocateur.
The bowler hat man. Love it. Okay. But government officials say toxic levels of contamination have not been detected. But a poll by federal, state, local authorities earlier this month found 3/4 of town residents experienced headaches following the derailment and controlled release. I don't even like calling it controlled release. And half had experienced rashes or other skin issues. On Friday, CNN reported that investigators with CDC had also had symptoms. By filing its lawsuit, Assistant AG Todd Kim of the DOJ's Environment and Natural Resources Division, the Biden administration is demanding accountability from Norfolk Southern for the harm this event caused. I will bet that it's Todd Kim that's driving this and not Merrick Garland. I will just bet. He's the environmental guy at Justice. It would make sense that he would be driving this. On top of the fact that Merrick Garland is a shameless corporatist. So he would begrudgingly have no choice but to go along with this because he has to. We will tirelessly pursue justice. We use the quote. In February, the EPA ordered Norfolk Southern to take full responsibility, issuing a legally binding directive. It also demanded the company attend all public meetings, which they didn't, regarding the disaster, after officials refused to meet with the residents following the crash. And I think Erin Brockovich actually was helpful in getting them to the table there. There's Sherrod Brown, key sponsor of multiple recent railway safety bills, applauded the Biden administration for following Ohio's lead and holding Norfolk Southern accountable to the full extent of the law. I mean, look at that. I don't know what you're doing, but that's
trying to get my
man. All right. Norfolk Southern and other rail companies have long lobbied for lax regulations and push workers to abide by strict scheduling system. That's the precision railroading. That rail unions say places profits over safety. And I think that we've seen that over the last few years for sure. And people are talking about, oh, under Trump, there were just as many derailments. Well, he wasn't exactly great when it came to regulations and safety either. So that's not really much of a win or a humble or a brag, gotta say. But Julia Conley, and specifically Common Dreams themselves, who is an Indie Media Award honoree. Check out indiemediaawards.com and you can learn about all the Indie Media Awards. Thank you. Okay, so I'm done with my horrific stories for the week. Thank goodness, man. Nightmare fuel. Nothing but nightmare fuel this week. Oh, and we could have done the Juarez fucking fire too, where 38 people were burned to death in a jail, and the guards just allowed it to happen. I mean, but I really want to talk about the water stuff this week, and